Hello, dear seeker. Welcome to this gentle corner of the internet, where together we step away from the noise and reconnect with ancient wisdom that still speaks powerfully to our modern lives. Today, I invite you to slow down, settle your breath, and open your heart to one of the most transformative teachings from the legendary sage Lao Tzu, author of the Tao Te Ching, a text cherished for over 2,500 years. This short but profound book is filled with reminders about how life truly works when we stop struggling against the natural rhythm of existence. And perhaps one of his most important insights is this simple warning. When you force things, you make life harder. At first glance, this might appear obvious. But if we look honestly at our lives, our relationships, our careers, our emotions, and even our spiritual journeys, we often find ourselves pushing, controlling, resisting, and trying to bend the world to our will. Most of us are taught that forcing is strength, that effort is virtue, that struggle is necessary. Yet Lao Tzu offers a very different perspective. He invites us into a world where ease is not laziness, where stillness is not weakness, and where flow is more powerful than force. Lao Tzu's teaching begins with a quiet but powerful warning. Do not force the way. In the Tao Te Ching, the way or Tao is the natural, unspoken intelligence that guides all things, the same force that moves the oceans, grows the forests, and turns seasons without being commanded. The Tao does not hurry, yet nothing in nature is ever incomplete. It unfolds with perfect timing, perfect balance, and perfect ease. When Lao Tzu advises us not to force, he is reminding us that life already has a rhythm. There is a flow beneath everything we do, in our conversations, our goals, our relationships, our moments of joy, and even our challenges. But when we try to push against this flow, when we insist that things must happen on our timeline, our terms, and our expectations, we invite unnecessary suffering into our lives. Forcing is not simply working hard. Forcing is the inner strain that comes from trying to control what cannot be controlled. It is the tension that arises when we cling too tightly to an outcome or resist the natural movement of life. Lao Tzu uses metaphors to illustrate this truth. He compares the rigid to the dead branch that snaps in the storm, while the flexible reed survives by bending. He compares the aggressive to the brittle, and the gentle to the enduring. Over and over, he shows that the universe responds not to force, but to alignment. This section invites us to reflect. Where are we pushing too hard? Where are we fighting the current? Where are we demanding life move faster than it needs to? When we understand the wisdom in Lao Tzu's warning, we begin to see that harmony comes not from force, but from humility, from listening, observing, and allowing the way to guide our steps. At the heart of Lao Tzu's teaching lies one of the most beautiful and misunderstood concepts in Taoist philosophy, WWEI. Often translated as non-doing or effortless action, WWEI is not about idleness, laziness, or avoidance. Instead, it is about learning to act in harmony with the natural rhythm of life, the way a bird flies without strain, or how water flows without effort yet shapes mountains over time. WWEI teaches us that true effectiveness does not come from force. It comes from clarity, presence, and alignment. Scholars such as D.C. Lau describe WWEI as action without arbitrary interference, while interpreters like Alan Watts explain it as the art of letting life live through you rather than trying to dominate it. Imagine paddling a boat downstream. When you move with the current, even small strokes carry you far. But if you try to move upstream, every inch demands strain. WWEI invites us to notice where the current is already guiding us in conversations, decisions, relationships, creative work, and inner growth, and to cooperate with that movement instead of resisting it. Practicing WWEI means listening to the subtle signals of the moment. It means asking, is now the right time? Before acting. It means choosing the path that feels natural rather than the one that feeds our ego. It is a softness that is strong, a surrender that is wise. This is why Lao Tzu says, the Tao never forces, yet nothing is left undone. When we act from inner balance rather than urgency, our actions become more efficient, more intelligent, and more impactful. Solutions arise more naturally, creativity flows more freely, and life feels less like a battle and more like a dance. WWEI is the artistry of living, a reminder that you do not need to push to make progress. You simply need to align. Lao Tzu's warning against forcing is not a philosophical abstraction, it is a practical insight into how suffering is created. When we dig deeper into his teachings, we find that forcing disrupts life in three major ways. It creates resistance, it clouds our perception, and it disconnects us from the present moment. 1. Forcing creates resistance. In Taoism, every push generates a pushback. This is the nature of opposites. Lao Tzu often repeats, the rigid is the companion of death, the soft is the companion of life. When we insist, demand, or cling, we tighten our lives. The world responds with tension. People resist, situations become strained, and obstacles multiply. It is like trying to clench water. The harder you grip, the more quickly it slips away. 2. Forcing distorts clarity. Forcing comes from attachment, fear, or impatience, states that blur our inner vision. When we push toward an outcome, we stop listening to what the situation is naturally revealing. We overlook signs, ignore intuition, and lose sight of creative solutions. The Tao Te Ching reminds us, to overfill is to create loss. Meaning, when we overexert, overthink, or overreach, we step out of wisdom and into imbalance. A rushing mind cannot see clearly. 3. Forcing disconnects us from the present. Forcing is always future-oriented. We push because we are afraid something won't happen fast enough. We force because we believe this moment is not enough. Yet Lao Tzu teaches that the only place true power exists is here, in the unfolding now. Modern mindfulness masters echo this, teaching that suffering is created when we try to escape or overpower the present moment instead of responding gracefully to it. When we understand these three consequences, Lao Tzu's warning becomes deeply practical. Forcing makes life heavier. Alignment makes life lighter. Lao Tzu's teachings are timeless not because they sound poetic, but because they apply directly to the challenges we face every day. When he warns against forcing, he is speaking to the parts of our lives where we push, control, and struggle the most. Let's look at a few real-life examples that reveal how forcing quietly complicates our lives, and how a softer approach brings clarity and ease. 1. Forcing relationships. Relationships, whether romantic, familial, or social, are delicate ecosystems. When we try to force someone to love us, understand us, or behave according to our expectations, something tightens in the connection. The more pressure we apply, the more the other person withdraws. Lao Tzu would say we're bending what should be allowed to grow naturally. True intimacy arises through presence, patience, honesty, and allowing others the freedom to be themselves. 2. Forcing success. We live in a culture that glorifies grinding, hustling, and pushing ourselves to exhaustion. But many people who burn out learn later that success flows more easily when approached through rhythm, not strain. When you align with your strengths, your timing, and your natural pace, you become more effective. Lao Tzu teaches, a cup is useful when it is empty. Meaning, spaciousness, not pressure, creates breakthroughs. 3. Forcing creativity. Artists, writers, and creators know that creativity cannot be commanded. The more we try to be creative, the more blocked we become. Inspiration thrives in relaxation, curiosity, and openness. When we let go of forcing, ideas arise like ripples on still water. 4. Forcing control. Trying to control everything is the fastest way to create inner conflict. Life becomes heavy when we cling to outcomes. But when we release unnecessary control and focus on what is truly ours to manage, peace naturally returns. These examples show that forcing doesn't just fail, it backfires. Ease, trust, and alignment always lead us farther than pressure ever will. One of the most beautiful and mysterious truths in Taoist philosophy is its love for paradox. Lao Tzu often teaches through opposites, revealing that life works in surprising ways. And perhaps the greatest paradox of all is this: when you stop forcing, life begins to cooperate with you. When you soften, life becomes softer. When you let go, things fall into place. This is not magic, and it's not passive dreaming. It's a shift in the way we align ourselves with the natural intelligence of life. In the Zhuangzi, there is a story about a master butcher whose blade never dulls. When asked how he achieves such mastery, he explains that he never cuts with force. He simply follows the natural lines within the animal, moving with what is already there. Because he flows with the structure rather than fighting it, his work becomes effortless and lasting. This is WWEI in action. This is the power of non-forcing. Modern philosophers like Alan Watts echo this insight. He compares it to floating in water. The more you try not to sink, the faster you sink. But when you relax, water supports you. Life behaves in the same way. When you stop forcing, opportunities appear because you finally create space for them. Clarity returns because your mind is no longer cluttered with tension. People respond better because you're no longer approaching them with pressure or fear. Your intuition strengthens, guiding you toward decisions that feel right instead of rushed. Solutions arise naturally, as if life itself is assisting you. Lao Tzu's paradox is not a trick. It is a truth we experience when we release our grip and trust the flow of the Tao. The universe begins to feel less like an opponent and more like a partner. When we stop forcing, life begins to unfold. Understanding Lao Tzu's wisdom is one thing, living it is another. Non-forcing, or WWEI, is not about withdrawing from life. It is about learning to move with life instead of pushing against it. Here are practical, grounded ways to bring this ancient teaching into your daily rhythm. 1. Pause before acting. Before taking action, especially when you feel urgency or pressure, pause for a brief moment. Ask yourself, am I acting from clarity or from fear? This simple check-in often reveals when you're forcing something out of insecurity rather than genuine alignment. 2. Follow the path of least resistance. This doesn't mean choosing the easiest or laziest option. It means choosing the option that feels most natural. There's always one direction that feels quieter, more intuitive, more consistent with your nature. Follow that direction. Nature shows us that efficiency, not exhaustion, leads to growth. 3. Trust the timing. Lao Tzu reminds us that everything unfolds at its own pace. Rushing doesn't make a flower bloom faster. It only disrupts the conditions that allow it to bloom. Trusting timing means respecting seasons, moments of action, moments of rest, moments of waiting, and moments of receiving. 4. Let go of excess control. Notice what you are gripping too tightly. Outcomes, people, plans, images of yourself. You don't need to abandon responsibility. You only need to stop strangling possibilities. Control what is yours. Release what belongs to life. 5. Align with your nature. Act in ways that feel truthful and authentic. The Tao Te Ching teaches that the sage stays with their nature, and the world comes to them. When you stop pretending, stop pushing, and stop trying to be someone else, your actions become powerful, clean, and effective. Practicing non-forcing is not a technique. It is a way of being. Through gentleness, presence, and trust, life becomes something you flow through, not something you battle against. As we come to the end of this journey together, dear seeker, I invite you to pause for just a moment. Feel your breath. Feel your presence. Notice how simply listening to ancient wisdom can soften something inside you, even if only a little. This is the quiet power of Lao Tzu's teaching. It doesn't demand, it doesn't push, it doesn't force. It simply invites, and you choose how deeply you receive it. Throughout this exploration, we've seen how forcing, whether in our relationships, our goals, our creativity, or our inner world, creates heaviness and resistance. And we've seen how softening, allowing, and aligning can open the door to clarity, ease, and profound change. This is the way of the Tao, a path that is gentle but not weak, simple but not shallow, effortless but not passive. As you return to your daily life, you don't need to transform everything at once. Lao Tzu never asked for perfection. He encouraged awareness, humility, patience, and trust. So take just one insight from this teaching and let it accompany you today. Perhaps it is the reminder to pause before acting, or the permission to loosen your grip on a situation, or the courage to trust that life has a rhythm wiser than your fears. If this message touched you, consider carrying it into the coming days like a quiet companion. And if you feel called to share it with a friend, a loved one, or someone who may need guidance, know that even small acts of wisdom create ripples far beyond what we can see. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for your openness, your curiosity, and your willingness to grow. If you found value here, I invite you to like, subscribe, and join this journey of gentle transformation. Until we meet again, walk softly, breathe deeply, and trust the unfolding of your own path.